We'll consider draft proposal L.1 entitled, which is ready for consideration, entitled Promoting Reconciliation, Accountability and Human Rights in Sri Lanka, to be introduced by the United Kingdom, if I'm not wrong. So I give you the floor, Mr. Ambassador of United Kingdom, for this purpose.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Vous avez tout à fait raison.
You're absolutely right, sir.
On behalf of the core group, comprising Canada, Malawi, Montenegro, North Macedonia, the United States, and the UK, I have indeed the honor to introduce draft resolution L1 entitled Promoting Reconciliation, Accountability, and Human Rights in Sri Lanka. Monsieur le Président, since 2012, there have been 8 resolutions on Sri Lanka in this Council, some of which have been detailed and substantive, while others have been shorter and more procedural. This year, this session, the draft resolution presented by our core group is short and procedural in nature. The resolution welcomes the most recent report of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, which drew attention to a significant number of human rights concerns in Sri Lanka. These included the deepening human rights impacts of the economic crisis which the country has been facing in recent years, a range of worrying legislative developments, the erosion of democratic checks and balances, restrictions on civil society, concerns arising out of land seizures, and long-standing impunity for enforced disappearances and other high-profile emblematic cases affecting people from Sinhala, Tamil, and Muslim communities. Our draft resolution seeks to extend the Office of the High Commissioner's work on Sri Lanka for the year, and that work has 2 key elements. The first is the Office's reporting to this Council, which I hope provides a hugely valuable, objective assessment of progress and of challenges, as well as recommendations for both the government and the international community on steps to address those challenges. The second element has been labelled by the Office of the High Commissioner as its Sri Lanka Accountability Project, through which the Office has been collecting, analysing and preserving information and evidence of gross violations of human rights or serious violations of international humanitarian law in Sri Lanka. The ultimate aim of this work is to combat the long-standing impunity which has prevailed in Sri Lanka for far too long. Monsieur le Président, members of the Council, during the course of this session, Sri Lanka has held peaceful, democratic presidential elections, and it's announced parliamentary elections for next month. We stand ready to engage with the new government on making progress on the range of human rights challenges which have been identified by the Office of the High Commissioner. We call on the Council today to demonstrate its continued commitment to advancing reconciliation, accountability, and human rights in Sri Lanka by adopting the draft resolution before us. Thank you very much. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur.
Thank you, Ambassador, for having introduced this text. There are 2 additional co-sponsors for this draft resolution, and I would now like to open the floor for general comments for delegations who wish to make some.
Monsieur l'Ambassadeur de
Belgium, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, President.
On behalf of the EU member states that are member of the Human Rights Council, this general comment has been agreed by the EU as a whole. The EU congratulates Anura Kumara Dissanayake upon his election inauguration as President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. We look forward to working with President Dissanayake and continuing the EU support to Sri Lanka's reforms to bring the country to economic recovery, lasting reconciliation, and inclusive prosperity and growth. The people of Sri Lanka demonstrated once again their commitment to democracy with a high voter turnout at the presidential elections held on the 21st of September. Elections took place in a peaceful manner and in a competitive political environment. The challenges that lay ahead are manifold. They can only be addressed successfully by a united, reconciled country where all Sri Lankans, regardless of ethnicity, religion and belief or political affiliation, live together in peace and mutual respect, and where civil society has its place within the public discourse. The Sri Lanka Accountability Project focuses on ensuring that reconciliation and accountability are fulfilled and can thus create a strong foundation for a peaceful and just society that can thrive in the long term. In this sense, we welcome the renewal of the project as proposed by the resolution at hand. We recognize that many stakeholders are disappointed by the short and technical text. And we understand that many would have liked to see a renewal by more than 1 year. However, we also see the need to engage with the new government of Sri Lanka on how the project can best support them, and vice versa. The EU stands ready to support Sri Lanka on this path. We hope this resolution will be adopted by consensus, but should the vote be called, the EU member states that are members of this council will vote yes and urge others to do the same. Thank you, Mr. President.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur.
Thank you, Ambassador. I would like to give the floor to the delegation of Cuba, also for general comments. Thank you very much, President. Cuba is opposed in principle to resolutions that do not have the support of the country concerned. We also oppose any action or mandate that stems from them. We would reiterate that only constructive cooperation and respectful dialogue on the basis of the principles of the UN Charter can contribute to tackling national challenges in terms of the protection and effective promotion of human rights. Punitive mechanisms merely strengthen politicization and double standards in how we tackle human rights issues. It is a harmful way of acting, which, as we all know, led to the disappearance of the Distinguished Human Rights Commission, and the negative consequences are ever more visible within this council. Selective mechanisms should not be given priority over genuine dialogue with the Office of the High Commissioner on the terms of genuine cooperation and dialogue, and through universal mechanisms like the UPR, which has shown its effectiveness and usefulness for addressing human rights issues in all countries on an equal footing. Cuba will continue to defend these principles, and all the more so within the Human Rights Council. Thank you. I thank the Ambassador of Cuba and now give the floor to the Ambassador of Costa Rica. Thank you, President. A few days ago, the people of Sri Lanka expressed its will through the ballot box. The political reality is complex, and social, economic, and ethnic tensions are ongoing. It is clear that change must come, and we hope that it will be for the better. For Costa Rica, such change would be an opportunity for the new authorities to embrace an inclusive national vision, which, amongst other things, would address the deep causes of the ethnic conflict, of corruption and impunity, scourges which impede full respect for and enjoyment of the human rights of the Sri Lankan people. As my delegation said when this text was being negotiated, we have been encouraged by the fact that Sri Lanka has shown particular interest in some of the debates that have taken place under agenda items 2 and 4 within this council, including on countries where a lack of accountability and persistent impunity have had devastating and long-term effects on the enjoyment of human rights. We conclude that such involvement, or we trust that such involvement, is part of a renewed commitment of Sri Lanka to the universal system of human rights. By underscoring accountability, L.1 is a unique opportunity for the new government to lead by example and to show to other parts of the world how one can begin an open, constructive and transparent dialogue with the Office of the High Commissioner and the mechanisms created by this Council as tools for improving the human rights situation for the entire population. Yes, President, it will take time. Of course it will. But just like the hard climb up the Pico de Adan, the Shripada, the Shiva Nolipata Malai are guided by really marked out and robust steps, human rights are a safe path towards achieving justice, peace, and ensuring lasting reconciliation. The rewards that come following a sustained and well-guided effort are always the best rewards. Costa Rica thanks the sponsors of this draft resolution for their practical and coherent approach. We support the continuity of the accountability draft and the work of the OHCHR, and we call for this to be adopted without a vote. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur.
Thank you, Ambassador. I now give the floor to China, also for general comments.
Mr. President, China recognizes the efforts of Sri Lanka to promote and protect human rights, including actively cooperating with human rights mechanisms, combating terrorism, protecting the rights of vulnerable groups, promoting economic reconstruction, and improving people's living standard. China will, as always, firmly support the efforts of Sri Lanka to maintain political stability, focus on economic construction, achieve national ownership and sustainable development, and create favorable conditions for its economic and social development and better living standard of the people. Mr. President, China is always opposed to country-specific human rights resolution without the consent of countries concerned, using human rights as a tool to interfere in the internal affairs of other countries. Therefore, China will not participate in the consensus on draft resolution L.1. China supports the Human Rights Council in following in its work the principle of universality, impartiality, objectivity, and non-selectivity. We hope that all parties will respect the path of human rights development freely chosen by the Sri Lankan people and return back to the right path of dialogue and cooperation. Thank you.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madam. I see no other requests for the floor for general comments. I will now, as per practice, give the floor to the delegation of the country concerned, the distinguished ambassador of Sri Lanka. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the country concerned in respect of draft resolution 57/L1, as authorized by the newly elected government in Sri Lanka, let me brief the Council on the latest developments in the country. Following a model conduct for a free, fair, and peaceful election on a dignified transition of office, in keeping with our decades of democratic practice, His Excellency Anura Kumara Dissanayake was sworn in as the 9th Executive President of Sri Lanka on 23rd September. Next month, the people of Sri Lanka will exercise their franchise once again to elect a new parliament, enabling the government to move forward with a strengthened mandate to deliver on the people's expectations for a new political culture in the country. The rule of law, transparency, accountability, and reconciliation will prevail in order to ensure sustained economic growth and social well-being of all our citizens. In line with the people's aspirations, the government will prioritize integrity and ethical governance, including issues of mismanagement and corruption that were at the root of the economic collapse. The government will protect democracy and human rights of all citizens, including addressing past issues. Domestic mechanisms and processes that deal with reconciliation, accountability, and justice will be credible and independent within the constitutional framework, and a truth and reconciliation process that has the people's trust will be operationalized. As stated by President Dissanayake, our aim is to make domestic mechanisms credible and sound. As directed by the President, investigative authorities have already announced redoubling of investigation into a number of clearly identified accountability cases that were pending from the past. Justice will be delivered to the victims of the senseless Easter Sunday attacks. The government is committed to a Sri Lankan nation that respects diversity and equal citizenship for all without discrimination, consistent with our Constitution and our treaty commitments. Administrative, political, and electoral processes will be activated towards this end. The government has received the mandate from the people and the encouragement of the international community as we move forward on these fronts. Mr. President, now with regard to the draft resolution before us, Sri Lanka has opposed HRC Resolution 51/1 and the preceding HRC Resolution 46/1, under which an external evidence gathering mechanism has been established within the OHCHR. For the above reasons, we reject the draft resolution tabled at the Council today, seeking to extend the mandate of Resolution 51/1. The detailed reasons for our rejection are contained in the long version of this statement, as well as in document HRC/57/G1. Notwithstanding rejection of the resolution, Sri Lanka will continue its long-standing constructive engagement with this Council, including with regular human rights bodies, treaties to which we are party, as well as the UPR process. We will keep the Council updated on the progress we make. I would also like to express appreciation for the principled positions taken by many in this Council in support of Sri Lanka as we enter a new chapter in our country. At a time of intense cynicism and polarization within the multilateral arena on human rights and humanitarian situations in the context of the ongoing travesties of these norms, we urge the co-sponsors of this politicized draft resolution, which we oppose, to support and encourage the government's clear intention to address human rights and reconciliation through domestic processes and in line with our international obligations. I thank you, Mr. President.
Je vous remercie, Madame.
Thank you, Ambassador. This draft resolution does have budgetary implications. Are there any explanations of vote before the vote on this draft? Are there any requests for a vote on this text?
You have it. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. We thank the core group for its efforts in preparing this resolution. We also duly take note of the statement made earlier, just now, by Sri Lanka as a country concerned. We encourage Sri Lanka itself to continue to improve its human rights situation in a concrete and tangible manner, and to further promote confidence-building measures that contribute to national reconciliation. In this regard, we welcome the holding of Sri Lanka's presidential election on the 21st of September in a transparent manner, reflecting the will of the people of Sri Lanka. We strongly hope that the new government of Sri Lanka will further enhance its efforts for accountability and national reconciliation through the development of a transparent domestic mechanism. We also hope that the government of Sri Lanka will take such steps as part of an overall commitment to the protection of human rights and vulnerable communities, as well as to governance reform. We will continue to support the new government's efforts and hope that this resolution will be adopted without a vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I understand that you took the floor for an explanation of the vote before the vote. And then I request again if there is any request for a vote on this resolution. I see none. Then resolution L.1 is adopted by the Council. So decided. We move now to resolution L.22, which is also ready for consideration and which is entitled Responding to the Human Rights and Humanitarian Crisis Caused by the Ongoing Armed Conflict in the Sudan. And I give you the floor.